Hello YouTube, how's it going? So, James Gunn's Superman is finally in theaters, and I'm here to let you guys know what it's all about. Is this the start of a better tomorrow for the DC Universe? Or do we need to go ahead and kill this thing with some kryptonite? I'll let you guys know after we take a look at the trailer.
You'd let me interview you as Superman.
Sure. Let's do it, Cronkite.
Superman.
Miss Lane.
Recently, you've come under a lot of fire for what some
it's
might.
a lot of fire,
It's a
but-
lot.
My actions? I stopped a war.
Maybe.
Not maybe. I did.
In effect, you illegally entered a country.
This is how you're gonna be?
I'm not the one being interviewed, Superman. Did you consult with the president?
No.
You seemingly acting as a representative of
I
the
wasn't
United States
representing
will cause
anybody
more
except for me.
problems around the world.
And doing good.
I would question myself in the same situation and consider the consequences.
People were going to die. Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
Your choices, your actions. That's what makes you who you are.
Superman. He's not a man. He's an it. He's somehow become the focal point of the entire world's conversation. I will not accept that.
I cleaned your boots. I'll go get them for you.
All right, well that was a look at the trailer, and I'm gonna go ahead and just get started on this. I liked it a whole lot. This is a very good start to Gunn's DCU. I mean, technically it's already started, but this is the big coming out party. This is the big new first feature film in this new DCU, and I really liked this a lot, man. I am continually impressed with James Gunn when it comes to these superhero projects. I'm very impressed with how much he's able to pack into this movie and still keep it coherent. There's a lot going on in this movie. There's a ton of characters, some that people are going to know right off the bat. They don't really have a lot of baggage. Some people don't even know who they are yet. I knew who they all were because I'm a big DC fan, but I got to be honest with you, it's never overwhelming. You know, James Gunn made a comparison to Oppenheimer with this, and it is kind of similar to Oppenheimer in the sense that you get a lot of new characters that show up every like 5 to 10 minutes. You're like being introduced to a whole new character, but it never felt like it was overwhelming or out of place, and you never were like, who the heck is this dude? Because he does a good job of just letting you know right off the bat who they are and what they're going to be doing in the movie. The structure of this really reminds me of a comic run. He took a lot of inspiration from All-Star Superman, which has a lot going on in that comic. It's not a one-to-one to All-Star Superman, of course. There's no way it could be, because that's very much a Superman at like the end of his run. This is Superman kind of more at the beginning. But what I mean by it reminds me of like a comic run. So whenever they're doing these comic runs, whether it's like by Tom King or Scott Snyder, you know, it's always like month to month, and they'll have like the issue that like kicks off the whole thing. Then like the next couple issues will be like, you know, like this is the one where Superman fights the monster. This is the one where Lex Luthor lays out his plan. And then by the end of the run, you know, it all kind of culminates and hopefully comes together. And, you know, it feels like every like 20 or 30 minutes of this movie feels like it's a new monthly issue that's been released. And I'm really interested to see how like regular audiences feel about that. I really liked it a lot because I read comic books a lot. But I'm really interested to see how like a regular movie-going audience feels about it. Obviously, the critics like it. It currently has good audience scores, but then again, it did just come out today. So we'll see if that changes over time. But, and by the way, because of that comic book structure, I will say, I think the pace of this can be a tad overwhelming at times. This is a really brisk pace. I already want to watch it again because I know that there's stuff that I missed. So once again, it's going to be interesting to see how non-DC fans feel about this film. Overall, this is nonstop fun for anyone who's a fan of Superman and DC. There's a lot of DC goodies in here, but this is Superman through and through. This very much is him being the whole, like, you know, gosh darn it, jolly good gee whiz character from the comic books. He's just a super nice guy, and I like that a lot. But I gotta be honest with you. One thing that I like about Gunn, and he tends to do this with his comic properties, he doesn't forget to make this about something other than comic book characters. Sometimes it is about a few too many things, but to be real with you, I prefer an overstuffed movie to one that's not stuffed at all. You know, it's kind of like Oreos, right? I'm more of a fan of like the regular Oreos, you know, over the overstuffed ones, but I'll take an overstuffed Oreo over one that doesn't have any filling at all. So, you know, I like that about Gunn. I like that about this movie. And yeah, so speaking of James Gunn, this is very much a James Gunn movie. So if you don't like James Gunn movies, you're in for some trouble here, because this has his trademark humor. It is mostly character-driven jokes, much like he did in Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, that's not to mean that there's not gags and stuff. There's like a gag with a donut that cracked me up in this. But most of it is character-driven stuff. It's very much like this character would say this in this moment, and it turns out that it's funny. He did that in Guardians of the Galaxy a lot as well. A good example is like, you know, when Rocket says like, oh, jokes are going to go completely over Drax's head, and Drax says, nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too fast. I will catch it. It's very much that type of humor in this movie, and that I like a lot. You know, it's more of that over like the like gag stuff, or like the stuff that the MCU does where it's like quips or references to pop culture stuff and everything. So I very much appreciate that. Also, this does have needle drops like Guardians. Now, it's not the main focus. There's probably like, I think there's 1 or 2 needle drops in this movie, but they're very well utilized. They don't feel like they stick out or ruin the movie or anything like that. Matter of fact, they enhance the scene rather than overwhelm it, which I like quite a bit. It also does have his sentimentality as well. James Gunn, he always makes sure to have like an emotional hook, a sentimental hook to his movies. It works better for some people than it does others. I've already seen some people say that he's an emotionally cheap filmmaker. I disagree with that. I think for the most part, his emotional beats are usually earned. You know, I think he takes his time and he sets them up well, and he continues to do that in this movie. And because of that, and because of how much he's balancing here and how much he's got to do, and he's got to kickstart this whole DC universe, I gotta be real with you, I think this is one of James Gunn's best movies. I was a little nervous when I heard he was gonna come in and write and direct Superman. I was like, oh man, we're gonna have a Superman who like curses a lot and all that stuff. But you know, it's weird because like he doesn't do that with the Guardians movies. You know, he very much like made sure that his writing style fit with those characters, and he does the same thing with this. He adjusts his writing style just enough to fit with Superman to where it feels distinctly James Gunn, but also feels distinctly Superman. And so because of that, you know, it's great. And I have to reiterate just how impressed I am with how much Gunn is able to balance within a single movie. Every single Guardians of the Galaxy film that this man directed is jam-packed with goodies. Even something like Slither is jam-packed with goodies for people who like love horror films. He just does so much in his movies. He jam-packs so much together, and when you're done, you leave feeling you don't leave feeling overfilled. You leave feeling just filled enough to where you're like very satisfied with what you just saw. And he really is becoming a master at knowing how to jam a bunch of stuff into a movie, and you being like, oh man, I'm worried about how much is in this movie, and then it turns out like, oh, you know what? I don't have to worry about it at all because we're obviously watching a film from a guy who's able to juggle a lot, and you know, that's very impressive. I'm gonna be real with you. So anyway, let's move on to the characters. Lots of characters in this, huge characters. We're gonna start with the characters closest to Superman. Then we're gonna do Lex Luthor stuff, and then we're gonna do Justice Gang stuff. Okay, so that's how I got it broken down here. So let's talk about the characters. Superman is the main focus of this movie. I know when people were looking at the trailers, they were like, man, this doesn't really seem like it's going to be a Superman movie. It's got all this other stuff in it. That is not the case. Superman is the main character. It's very much, you know what it reminds me of actually? It's very much how Batman Begins is a Batman movie. It's very much how Spider-Man is a Spider-Man movie. Very much how The Batman, Matt Reeves is the Batman, is very focused on Batman. That movie in particular really focuses on Batman more so than I think any other Batman movie does. But this very much is a Superman movie. The other characters in this movie, something that James Gunn does that's very smart here, is that these characters, they don't take away from him. Instead, they support him. Every single time there's a new character that's introduced in this movie, I think it just enhances Superman as a character because it gives him stuff to bounce off of, gives him stuff to interact with. It's very cool. Having said that, though, not a lot of Clark Kent in this movie. And there's really hardly any Clark Kent in this movie at all. And I do hope when they make the sequel that they find a better balancing act. But that's because Superman in this movie, he's got a lot going on. He's got a lot to deal with. And, this isn't one of those ones where he can, like, occasionally be Clark Kent and then go into Superman mode. He's pretty much got to be Superman mode pretty much this whole movie because Lex Luthor is going ham. And we'll get into that in the spoiler review on Monday. But, I was a little bit disappointed with how little Clark Kent there is, especially because I think David Cornsweet was really good as Clark Kent. I really liked him a lot as Clark Kent, especially his scenes with Lois Lane. There's a really good scene between him and Lois in the movie, which we'll talk about later as well. Speaking of Lois Lane, Rachel Brosnahan in this is fantastic. Now, here's the thing for me, okay? I grew up watching Smallville. I'm sure a lot of people my age did as well. I also really like Superman Returns a lot, and of course I do like Man of Steel. But my Lois Lane has always been Erica Durance. I think that she was like kind of the perfect Lois Lane in a lot of ways. Margot Kidder was also very good as well, but I didn't really grow up with that stuff. I mean, I did watch those movies, but I didn't have an attachment to them the way that I have with something like Smallville, right? And Erica Durance, I feel like, did a really great job of showing the more plucky side of Lois Lane, how brave she can be, how strong she is. Her focus and importance on reporting, as well as her really good relationship with Clark. And I think Rachel Brosnahan does all of that in this. She is super good at being the go-get-the-story Lois. Her character here is super, super good. And James Gunn gives her something to do because in this movie, Superman's already in love with Lois Lane. They've been together for a little bit. I won't say how long or anything. They've been together for a little bit. And Lois, she's a character who, she's been bad in relationships in the past. She didn't really know how to do the whole relationship thing. She doesn't really know if she's capable of loving another person more than herself or anything. And this very much is a movie about her grappling with that. And I think that's really cool. Also, gotta talk about Crypto, who's been in the trailers a ton. Super well realized here. I think Gunn did a really smart thing here by making Crypto super dog-like. This isn't like the Crypto TV show for kids and everything where Crypto's flying around and talking and stuff. He's a dog, and he's a bad dog, okay? He doesn't listen to Superman at all, and because of that, I think Gunn does a super good job of showing just how difficult it would be to take care of a dog who's as strong as Superman. And it also leads to a lot of really funny gags and bits with Crypto, as usual, because, it's just gonna be naturally funny seeing a dog who's got superpowers like this doing dog stuff. That's just gonna come naturally. You know what I mean? Gunn doesn't even really have to write that much for that. That's just gonna happen. No matter who the filmmaker is, I feel like Crypto, this version of Crypto especially, is gonna be a very funny character regardless. Next, we gotta talk about Jimmy Olsen. I think this is a really good interpretation of Jimmy. He's played by Skylar Gisondo, who's in The Righteous Gemstones. Really like him as an actor. James Gunn gives him something to do besides get shot. As much as I like Batman v Superman, I gotta say, it's really weird how Jimmy Olsen literally shows up in that movie just to get blasted. And I do feel like that's because Snyder knew that he wasn't going to have time to have Jimmy Olsen in the movie, in any future movies or anything. But, I did also think, hey, man, I like your movies, but this is a little odd. So it's nice to have a Jimmy Olsen who actually gets to, go around and be Jimmy Olsen and do some cool stuff. And James Gunn does some interesting things here with Jimmy as well. Let me get into some stuff that I actually didn't like real quick. This is some more character stuff. But the Kents, I'm not a fan of their interpretation here. I didn't really like it very much. They're just bumpkins. I get it, they're farmers and they're in Kansas, but they're super country to the point where they don't even know how to use a cell phone really. They got some good gags, But I gotta be real with you, I feel like the Kents in this are very out of character from how I'm used to seeing them. And I don't mind changes, really. You know, Gunn, he does make some changes to the canon and the lore here and stuff, and that's fine. I don't mind that. I just think this feels weird. I will say, I think Jonathan Kent, even with him being like just a bumpkin and stuff, I do think he still gets a really good heartwarming moment with Clark, and that was really good. I still liked that quite a bit. But it's still odd that they're portrayed, especially Martha Kent is portrayed as just a bumpkin. It's odd. As far as Jor-El and Lara go, they're in the movie, but I don't want to ruin who plays them. And I'm also kind of torn on how they're portrayed here. But with them, I feel like I got to see more. I have a feeling that they're going to grow those characters a little bit in the Supergirl movie. My thoughts and feelings on what they do with Jor-El and Lara here are undetermined. We'll see what happens with Supergirl or maybe the next Superman movie. But I'm a little torn on how they're portrayed here, to be honest with you. As far as the rest of the Daily Planet staff goes, such as like characters like Perry White and Cat Grant, not a whole lot for them to do here. Once again, each of them kind of gets their own good bits, but they're barely in the movie. You know, they don't really get a lot to do. They get more to do towards the end, but they still are kind of just there. And that's because this movie is so jam-packed. Even James Gunn, I feel like he is as good as he is with juggling things. Even this, I feel like, was a little bit too much to include in the movie. But it's nice to have them there regardless. Okay, now we got to talk about Lex Luthor and the characters closest to it associated to Lex Luthor. Boy, oh boy, Lex Luthor might be my favorite part of this movie. I think Nicholas Hoult is so good here. He's a younger Lex Luthor, at least like he looks younger. Nicholas Hoult, he's got that baby face going on. You know what I mean? He doesn't really age. He's looked the same the whole time I've known it. Been watching him in movies and stuff. But he's super comics accurate in this. I mean, probably the most comics accurate Lex Luthor we've ever gotten. So if you didn't like what Jesse Eisenberg was doing in Batman v Superman, which I actually liked a lot because it was meant to be like, pretty much like Lex Luthor if he existed, blah, 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 social network stuff. Anyway, but this Lex, super comics accurate. He's definitely Elon Musk coded, but I feel like that just comes naturally because a lot of billionaires we got in the world. Turns out they're more Lex Luthor than Bruce Wayne. So, but this is a Lex who just hates Superman, and he's super passionate about how much he hates Superman. It's almost like the one thing that he is the most passionate about. He's like, I fucking hate this dude. And that's cool. That's really cool. It's really nice to see this in this movie. He's not just doing like a realty scheme like the Gene Hackman version, which I do like the Gene Hackman version, but I think Nicholas Hoult here, man, he's really going off. This version of Lex is like a true genius who's got unlimited resources, who's going to do whatever it takes to take down Superman, which is exactly what I want to see from Lex. And I'm very excited to see where they go with him in the future. And to be real with you, I kind of can't talk enough about how much I like this version of Lex Luthor. He's so daggum good, man. It's crazy. Probably my favorite part of the movie, to be honest. I also want to talk about Miss Tessmacher, Eve Tessmacher in this. She's actually an original character who was created for the Richard Donner Superman back in '78. And something that I thought it was interesting that Gunn was including her here. I think that's very cool, especially because tonally I think this is much closer to the 1978 Superman than something like Man of Steel. Miss Tessmacher here, I like that he actually gives her some stuff to do. And once again, he's able to make her a character that's more than just Lex's girlfriend. I think that they did a good job in the '78 version of making Miss Tessmacher actually have a personality, making sure that she's more than just Lex's girlfriend, and they continue that tradition here. And they have some pretty good jokes with her as well. James Gunn, he just can't help himself, man. But they're all character-driven and stuff, which I think is really cool. Let's talk about his henchmen before we get to the Engineer and Ultraman, who are great. But his underlings, these people who work for him and stuff, like in the tech office and everything, I really liked them. They all have small roles, but they all have a lot of character. There's a really good gag that they do where Lex knocks over a cup full of pencils and pens because he's so mad, and they all start picking it up, and they put it back up, and then Lex just quietly knocks it back off, and they all got to pick it. It's really good stuff. And one of the things that I like about it is that like all of his like underlings and henchmen and stuff, they want to work for him. They like this dude. They think he's a genius and really smart. And, they're willing to do pretty much anything he says. Let's talk about the Engineer and Ultraman. They're basically just the muscle for Lex Luthor. Each of them has been specifically designed by Lex to be able to fight and potentially take down Superman. That's why when you watch the trailers for this, it looks like Superman's just getting his ass kicked the whole time. Because in this movie, this is the first time this Superman has really fought anyone who's specifically made to fight him. You know what I mean? So he's like, hey, this is a whole new thing for me, man. I'm not used to people being able to fight me like this. So I thought that was really cool. I think the engineer here has a lot of character that's untapped. And I think the reason for that is because they are going to do... she's a member of this group in the DC Comics called The Authority. Now, I don't know a whole lot about The Authority. I'm actually going to order some of those comics and read them because they're working on a movie, or maybe it's a TV show for The Authority. And I got to say, I am excited to see where the engineer goes after this movie. Also, my boy Metamorpho is in this movie. I really liked him in the Justice League TV show quite a bit, and it's nice to see him here. I think he's very well realized from a visual standpoint. I liked what they did with him in this movie. Don't want to get say any more because I'm trying to avoid spoilers here in this review. I also want to rewatch the movie before I really talk about Metamorpho stuff. But I think he's cool. Now let's talk about the Justice Gang. Great to see these characters in live action. I think Gunn was really smart to use characters who haven't been shown on the big screen yet for these people. By the way, the Hall of Justice is in this movie. It's pretty cool. But out of the group, Mr. Terrific, he's the standout, and I'm super happy to say that. Mr. Terrific is a character I like quite a bit. He's very cool in the Justice League show. Also, Tom King has a super great run on Mr. Terrific that you should definitely pick up and read. I know Tom King, he's a little mixed as a writer, but his run on Mr. Terrific is pretty terrific. Speaking of terrific, he does get the most to do, and he has a really cool action scene, which shows that he's a lot more than just the smart one. And that's all I will say about Mr. Terrific. But he's super cool. I think it's Eddie Gathegi is his name who plays him. Fantastic. Guy Gardner. We're going to talk about him now. Nathan Fillion perfectly cast as Guy Gardner. He's such a douche. It's so good. He does a super good job, though, of showing that, yeah, he's an asshole, but he's also very capable at his job, which is why they keep him around. And that's very much how he is in the comics as well. You know, it's like, yeah, okay, Guy, he sucks, but, you know, he's super good at being a Green Lantern. So, you know, I will say he doesn't get to showcase his powers too much in this movie. Although what they did show made me very excited to see what they do with the Green Lanterns in the Lanterns show as well as movies going forward. I kind of can't wait to see what they do with Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. I could not remember his name. What's wrong with me? Anyway, Jon Stewart's great. So I'm excited to see what they do with Lanterns in future shows and movies. As far as Hawkgirl goes, I think this is another area where I'm a little bit disappointed. Isabella Merced has the least amount of screen time out of the three. She is good here, and I do think she will be a very good Hawkgirl when we get to see more of her in the future. But I need to see more of her in the future, which is a good thing. I feel like I need to see more of her instead of going like, well, I can take her or leave her, you know what I mean? She's going to be in Peacemaker Season 2. I don't know how much she's going to be in Peacemaker Season 2, but she does feel like the odd man out of this movie, which is a little bit too bad. She doesn't really get her own action scene like Mr. Terrific and Guy Gardner do, but I did really like her quite a bit. She also has this really cool like Hawk war cry that she does in the movie that I thought was really awesome, and I can't wait to see more of that. As far as the story goes, I think it's really good. Very comics accurate. I don't want to get into too much because, again, I want to avoid spoilers, so I mostly just wanted to talk about how good of a job James Gunn did with this movie as well as the characters, and that's pretty much it. So all in all, I think James Gunn's Superman is incredibly fun, and it's a perfect movie for the summer movie season. I think there's a lot to love here, for both if you're a big DC fan like myself, as well as the more casual audience member. My screening actually for the IMAX Thursday night, 7 p.m. was sold out. It turns out a lot of showings for Superman Thursday were sold out, which is crazy, at least at the theater that I went to. So, I think audiences are going to eat this up. I think with this film, Gunn really does continue to show that he knows how to make a big crowd pleasing movie with lots of heart, character, and action. And to be real with you, I can't wait to see where he takes DC from here. It's going to be super fun. As a matter of fact, we're not going to have to wait that long because Peacemaker Season 2 starts in August. But I'm going to have to give Superman 4 stars out of 5 Really loved it. So it's a blast. I can't wait to watch it again. I'm going tomorrow to see it with my dad, and I'll probably see it again on Sunday, and I'll probably see it some more after that. But I'm kind of a big weird loser when it comes to this stuff. But I you know, it's fun. I gotta watch these movies a lot. So anyway, guys, that's my review for Superman. Make sure you like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Before we go, though, I do want to say a few things. On Monday, I'm going to have my spoiler review for this movie up. I'm going to start making more videos, getting them out. I want to talk about, I said I was going to review The Old Guard 2 and Heads of State. I'm not going to review The Old Guard 2. I watched it, thought it was terrible. It's barely even a movie, to be honest with you. So I was like, this isn't worth my time to review. I don't understand how they messed that one up so much. Heads of State, I haven't gotten around to watching yet, but when I do watch it, I will do a review for it because I like John Cena. I like Idris Elba. I think that's going to be a fun movie. I'm interested to talk about it. Also, I stream a lot. I multi-stream on Twitch and here on this YouTube channel. I haven't been streaming lately, though. I've been a little busy with stuff. The streams start back on Tuesday, and I'm going to laser beam focus on finishing up Doom Eternal because I got some big plans for the streams for the rest of the year that I want to go ahead and get to. I'm sorry, Doom the Dark Ages, not Doom Eternal. But yeah, basically I'm going to get back to doing the streaming next week on Tuesday, and hope you guys all look forward to that stuff. Next week, I got 2 movie reviews that are coming out. It's going to be Eddington, and I Know What You Did Last Summer. That should be super fun. But anyway, guys, enough of me yapping. I had to go trim up this scraggly beard of mine. Really appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.